Hello guys, welcome back. In this three-part video series, we are going to learn all about CSS selectors from the simple ones to the advanced complex selectors. Before we begin, let's take a look at the anatomy of a CSS rule. What you see on the screen right now is a simple CSS rule being applied to the element with the class container. The dot container here is called a class selector. As you guessed it, it selects the element where the CSS rule has to be applied. Inside the selector, we have a declaration. A declaration is simply a property and value pair. Property determines what to target in an element, and values are set against the property and could determine how or how much to target. In this example, we are telling the element with the class container to only have a maximum width of 1000 pixels. Today, we will specifically be talking about simple selectors. So, I have made this illustration here that categorize the selectors we got. The simple selectors, as the name suggests, are the simple ones and are pretty straightforward. The pseudo selectors are used to select an element in particular state like hover or select a pseudo element. We will cover that in the next video. The combinators can be used to combine multiple selectors. It is complicated as the title here suggests. We will be covering that in the third part of the series. Now let's jump to live code. Welcome back. You can see I already have some basic HTML setup here. We will go through them all as we cycle through each selectors. I have linked the style sheet here, which is empty for now. The first one is the wildcard among CSS selectors and is called the universal selector. It is just an asterisk symbol. I am going to use the universal selector to change the text decoration property to underline. You can see that every text element has got an underline. The next selector is the type selector. It selects all HTML elements of the same type. To demonstrate, I will select all paragraph elements using the paragraph selector and change the font size to 20 pixels. And as you can see, both the paragraphs here has increased their font size. The next selector I want to show you is the class selector. This is probably what you are going to use most often. Classes are the best way to style an HTML element. We already saw the class selectors at the beginning. In the HTML here, we have two span tags with the class test. To target these elements using class, we use the period symbol followed by the class name. I am going to change the color to red. You can see the color here has changed to red. The next one is the ID selector. IDs are generally reserved for DOM manipulation rather than styling. So you don't use ID selectors unless you want to target a very specific element. I have an image here with ID logo. To target this image by ID, we use hash followed by the ID name. I am going to change the max width to 50 pixels. You can see the image size has reduced. Among the symbol selectors, the last one is the attribute selector. Using attribute selectors, we can select HTML elements using their attributes. Here we have a div with attribute data equal primary. We can select that element by just providing the attribute in square bracket. I am going to change the font weight to bold. You can see that font here has changed to bold. You might have noticed that I have another div here with the same attribute but no value. To select that, just remove the value here. And all the elements with attribute data will be selected. You can see that both the div here has font weight bold. So these are the 5 simple selectors I showed you in the beginning of the video. In the next videos, we will be discussing about pseudo selectors and complex selectors. And that's about it. Like, share and subscribe. God save.